Are we rolling? We're good?
Yeah, that's all making it too.
All right, welcome back to the BotchPod.
The BotchPod. The BotchPod.
The BotchPod, the worst podcast in the world. Welcome back to the BotchPod, the worst podcast in the world. Today, we have Kevin McMullen.
Yes, sir. Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Appreciate you. So for the people that don't know, you're a real estate investor, a real estate agent, right?
Yep.
Tell us how you kind of got into that world first.
So in my previous life, I was born and raised in Buffalo. While I was in college, I went to Buff State. I started some video game stores called Oogie Games, which through my 20s, I built those up. I had 6 locations and did that for a number of years. I did really well. I mean, we were doing incredible numbers. I had 60 plus employees. I had locations all over Western New York.
How old were you during that time?
Honestly, like I started them while I was in college. I was 20 years old selling stuff on eBay, right? Like I'm 41. eBay just started up in the early 2000s. And so I started selling on eBay while I was in college, making just a ton of money, right? All my friends are working part-time jobs, like bussing tables, bar backing through college. And I did a little of that. But then I started selling video games online, and it was just like, I loved it, you know? When I graduated college, I opened up my first location like a month later, and then it slowly snowballed. So like I said, I had 6 of those video game stores, and I had opened up some cell phone stores, a chain. T-Mobile brought in Metro PCS into Buffalo,
Yep.
and I knew somebody that was working for them, and I was like, hey, like, how do I get in on this? So I opened up 4 of those locations on top of the 6 video game stores that I had. Wow. And a bigger dealer immediately came in after a year. Me and my business partner, we were doing really well, starting to crush it. And they were just like, hey, listen, like, we want to buy you out. Like, you need to go away. So they kind of like bought us out before we got rolling, so we didn't take their market share, right?
Yeah.
So the video game store started to go sideways. Everything went online. I had 6 retail stores and kind of saw the writing on the wall. So I closed some of that stuff. I sold some of that stuff, and then I started buying real estate. So I had already owned a duplex in Amherst that I lived in. So I lived in it, rented out the other side. You know, I'm living there for like $200 a month. My tenants are paying my mortgage.
Yeah.
I love cars. I had a Viper in the garage, and so then with the money that I had from the video game stores and the cell phone stores that I sold, I bought another duplex and triplex. So now I'm up to 7-8 units, cash flow, studying some more real estate, and that's kind of how it got started.
It's crazy. So, like, where did the money come from? I'm assuming the eBay, right? But like, where did the money come from to start those original like 6 stores or whatever?
Well, if you in college when the banks will give you as much money as you want, like for a loan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, guess what? Like I signed off. They were like maximum amount. I think my Buff State education was like 25 grand, and they gave me about 40, like literally double, 45 to 50,000 in student loans, right?
That's awesome.
So, but I didn't go piss that money away. Like
Right.
I literally kept it in the bank, and then I start buying inventory, selling it online, using that while I'm through college, and then I use the rest of that money to open up my first location.
That's awesome. Not that it matters, but what did you go to college for?
So, funny story is I got accepted to the Art Institute of Pittsburgh. So I was in like graphic design. So I'm getting ready to like get everything down there, and we get to the numbers process, and it's $40,000 a year plus room and board. And my dad looks at me and he's like, if you want to be a doctor, I'll let you go $250,000 in the hole. If you want to be a fucking artist, he's like, I don't think so. So actually, I stayed back in Buffalo, and I went to ECC and then transferred over to Buff State, and I was still in graphic design, right? And so I start looking for internships, and I see full-time paying jobs for graphic designers in Buffalo. And we're talking 20 years ago plus, for $10 an hour. I went to the registrar's office the next day and changed my major to business. It's like, so I was just, at that point, I was like, I need to get my degree and just like get out and get into the real world.
Right.
Yeah.
So with like that bridge there that you're saying, like when you transferred over and switched over, you originally like you had the artistry, I guess you can say it. Like you had that to begin with. Like you want to like create. You're a creative guy.
Sure.
I assume. Okay.
So that's really, so I flip houses too, and that's kind of like I love to design them, right? Like, listen, the entrepreneur in me, I love hunting for the houses, the art of the deal, like negotiating, all that is part of having my real estate license, but also as an investor, right? You need to get a good
Did you ever
deal.
read Art of the Deal?
What? Yeah.
Yeah. I read that too.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, I don't read taught
I don't either.
I have some ADD going on, so
I get that.
the audiobooks help me a lot, right?
Yep.
But I've learned a ton of real estate stuff, like online books, from Grant Cardone to Gary Vee, just like the hustle, the buy and the sell, and I mean, going back to when I was a kid, from having paper routes to selling candy at school to baseball cards, like, and then you hit eBay with the video games, like you just learn to buy something at a good price and then, flip it, right? That's all I'm doing. It's
So
just
it's been
stepping
like
stones.
a whole life thing for you.
Yeah,
Like
I think
you're saying?
so. I mean, I grew up pretty modest, right? My dad was a blue collar guy. My mom got married when she was 18. My dad was fresh out of the Army when he was 24. They had 4 kids right away. And, if I want a pair of Nikes, right? Or some name brand stuff, dude, I was using my paper route money.
Yep.
Mowing lawns, raking leaves. Like, there just wasn't that extra money in the household to buy that fancy shit, right?
Mm-hmm. When was the first time, like, the first thing you were selling at a young age? When was the first time you realized, like, oh, that was a realization that I was kind of entrepreneurial?
Yeah, so, you know what? I remember cutting my neighbor's lawn, and I got $5 to cut the lawn, right?
Yeah.
And the smell of money, I don't know what it is, but like, it did something to me.
Yeah.
And it's strange now because everything is so digital. And I always tell people, like my entrepreneur buddies, I'm like, every once in a while, like I love to grab a fucking fat wad of cash and just smell it, right? Yeah. Like the smell of money is incredible.
It is.
And like with my video game stores, dude, we were doing like $3 million a year in sales.
Yeah.
I didn't see any cash, right? My managers were taking the bank runs. A lot of it was credit cards. So I'm just seeing the numbers going in and out. Like I'm playing Monopoly, right? It's all digital. It's like fake almost.
Numbers on the screen.
Yeah. So, like I said, there's something about cash.
Yeah.
No,
I
yeah,
definitely feel that. Yeah.
Yeah,
It
you love single dollar bills.
It was, yeah.
Love that.
At a young age, I used to, like, I don't know if you ever heard of Uniball pens.
Okay, yeah.
Uniball, it was just like gel pens.
Yeah.
Right?
Super smooth.
Everybody in school like loved those, and the only place that had them was like the art room. I used to steal them from the art room and like sell them in the hallway.
You dirty fucker.
Yeah. and like that, like looking back on it, that was like the first time that I was really, it was like probably 5th grade, 3rd grade, something like that. And that was the first time that I realized, I was like, holy shit, like that was crazy.
You're just trying to make money.
Yeah.
Is that what it was for though? Money, or like what was your like number one? Like what did you want to buy? Like he said, if you wanted a pair of Nikes, like what did you want?
It wasn't about buying shit. It was honestly like just, it was the fun, like the rush of
the
it.
adrenaline
like,
rush
yeah,
of
like,
the hustle, right?
yeah,
Like no matter what, dude, at one point in college, before laptops became fairly reasonably priced, like when I was in high school and college, like a laptop was like $4,000, right?
Yeah.
I used to buy laptops too broken, and I would fix them up, and I'd reinstall like Microsoft Office and Windows and get them working as smooth, and all this shit was hacked, right? Like none of it was original copies. But I probably can't say that. I shouldn't say that. It was so long ago. But like I would buy broken laptops, fix them up, and then resell them on Craigslist, right? Yeah, it was pretty wild. I've always just had this knack for working for myself. I enjoy working for myself. Like I haven't worked for somebody else since I was 20 years old. And I always say, like, the video game stores, they put me into some pretty deep debt like 5-6 years ago. We're talking like $700,000. I had leases, I had a ton of inventory. Like, dude, when payroll's $25-30 grand a week, like it doesn't take long to, and I was just borrowing from the bank, right, to keep the doors open. I was throwing money at it just to,
So when you sold those stores, like how much of that paid back the debt?
So not a lot, because what happened was I closed four stores. Yeah. I sold one. I still have one open. Okay. But the majority of the money came from the cell phone stores that I got, right? So that kind of kept me going. So really the majority of the money for the first couple apartments was from the cell phone stores. So yeah, I mean, I went into some debt there, and I had to kind of dig myself back out of it. And I guess my whole point is that like, I kind of had to buckle down and start working again, because like, you build like a successful company over 10, 12 years, and then like if you don't adapt to the market changes, and again, technology is changing really fast, like we didn't keep up with the times well enough. Things went sideways. I threw some money at it. It didn't work. I went into debt, and so I had to find something, another angle.
So with the video game stores, what was like the motive behind that? Like, was it like you saw the market and grasped it and were like, hey, these video games are gonna go crazy, this stuff. You see like the amount of money to be made, or did you have like a solid interest in the video games?
So I had a video game background like any college kid or high school like guy, right? Like we would play video games here and there. I wasn't like super in depth into the culture of like hardcore gamer, right? Mm-hmm. But what I found is that like the retro stuff was just crushing it. And at this time, nobody knew, like the original Nintendo, Super Nintendo, all that stuff. Again, we're talking 20-some years ago at this point. And I was just buying it locally, dirt cheap. I would put ads in the newspaper, when the newspaper was still a thing, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Put ads in the newspaper anywhere I could. I was putting flyers all over Buff State, all over the local colleges, and literally going garage sale. Like, you see Gary V's videos, like going to garage sales and buying stuff. I was just hunting for video games, and that's all I would buy. I would go to the flea market on Walden. You guys old enough to remember the Walden Flea?
Yeah.
Genuinely, I think so. I think so, yeah.
Dude, I would go to the Walden Flea and just surf that whole place and just buy and buy and buy. And then what happened was I ended up opening my own table on the weekend. So I had one table, then it was two tables, and then I had a small store there. So then that's where like the brick and mortar came into place, right? So I was selling locally, I was selling online. But like, dude, I was buying Nintendo games for $1, and then some of the Mario stuff was worth $20, $30, $40. Yeah. Like the return was incredible.
Yeah. That's interesting. Because like, I was just wondering, because you said you had like the graphic design background, the artistry background, and just like video games, I feel like that like plays hand in hand,
sort of
in
like
a way,
like kind of like the nerdy video game style. Yeah. You know what? And it's so funny because like I just loved business. Like I loved buying and selling. It didn't matter what it was. Okay. Right. Yeah. I just found something that made money and I rolled with it. And then it just kept snowballing. Yeah. And then as I built the stores, right? Like this is what I say. I was like, the best bar owner is the one that doesn't drink, right? Because he's not pissing his profits by drinking them, right? So it's like pharmaceutical sales too. Yeah. You think these drug reps, well, maybe some of them are testing their product, but pharmaceutical salespeople all make,
they're not drug addicts,
right?
Yeah.
But they know everything about it, and that's what I had to do. Like I had to speak the lingo, and I knew I was ordering all the product, I was building out the locations, and honestly, once I started hiring a COO and a district manager and store managers, then I just was behind the scenes building the business, right? Yeah. And running promotions and doing advertising and then looking for the next location. And that's where I kind of found my love of real estate, was always scouting the locations and building out the locations. So now fast forward to now, like my design and my creativity comes out in the flips that I do and the renovations of the houses and the apartments and stuff like that. So
gotcha.
And I like. I'm sorry. No, go ahead. No, feel free.
Well, I just wanted to say, like, you're obviously into rental properties.
Yeah.
You're into the flips and stuff. What motivated you to be a real estate agent?
It was selfish to self-serve. So investors are super needy, right? Yeah. Like you need to look at 10 houses a day, 10 duplexes, whatever it is, right? And my real estate agent, I'm friends with him to this day, like great guy, taught me a ton, but he had other clients, right? And my first flip, you know, I did really well on it. I made like 35, 40 grand over a couple month period. I did a lot of the work. And then the real estate agents are chopping up 20 grand. And I'm like, whoa, like that's a lot of money. Like, dude, you took some pictures and you listed this thing, right? And so I got my real estate license to, you know, save 3% on the sale side, save 3% on the buy side when I'm buying properties, and really just have access to the MLS and anything that was on the market that, you know, trying to get my hands on it, because, you know, time is money. Like if I've got to call my real estate agent to go get into a property and I've got to wait on his schedule and then somebody else buys it from underneath me. So I bought it to self-serve. Now, being pretty well connected in Buffalo, Buffalo's a small town. I built a business here. I knew a lot of people. I sit on the board of Make-A-Wish, so I'm kind of in the community. And I've already, you know, I won a lot of business awards for the video game stores, right? So automatically, like, people trust me for business, right? And so, you know, the most important purchase, or the highest purchase of your life, the most expensive purchase of your life, a lot of times is your house, right? So then, you know, I built that just like any other business. I kind of ground down and focused on not necessarily being a real estate agent, but my investments, buying properties. You put that on social media, and people understand that you have your real estate license. They start coming to you. And listen, dude, like my first year, I made like 30 grand being a real estate agent, which really isn't a lot of money. I sold a couple houses, like wasn't a big deal. Now fast forward 6 years later, like right now I'm like top 40 real estate agents, and I'm doing it technically part-time, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, really what it comes down to is like when I'm flipping a house, like you're designing the kitchen, the bathrooms, what kind of flooring's going into it, the paint colors on the walls, accent walls, backsplashes, what color knobs are going on the cabinets, what color cabinets you're putting in, what color are you painting the house, right? And so that's kind of like my creative outlet. And, you know, we put in some like fancy wallpaper accent walls, and just, you know, you can have a ton of fun with it, right? Yeah. And the more people fall in love with the design of the house, right, when they come in and they're awed by it, you make that much more money. And for me, I only flip 2 or 3 houses a year because, listen, there's a lot of flippers, and flippers, they tend to get a bad name because they just come in, they put shit flooring.
And it's like makeup on a...
Right. I call it lipstick on a pig, right? And that happens a lot. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. There's plenty of flippers out there that they'll burn and turn these things in 2 or 3 weeks. I'm spending 4 months on this thing, right? And I'm there every day and going over with the contractors and pulling permits and doing things the right way. And unfortunately, like, you know, it'll look good in pictures, and then you go to the property and you're like, you know, you just see like,
what the fuck?
Yeah, the walls are beat, and the you know, they've used 20 pounds of caulk, and, you know, the cabinets are shit, and, you know, I'm using like, you know, minimum granite countertops. We're putting soft closed doors and drawers, just like, you know, putting a good product out there. And I would rather do 3 of those a year that I'm making 50, 60, 70 grand on than to do 10 of them a month where these guys are, you know, they're making a few $1,000 and they're terrible product.
Super understandable.
So
it's definitely quality over quantity. Yeah. Right.
For the audience out there, like, just providing some value for you guys.
Sure.
What do you think is the best route for someone looking to get into real estate? Like, is it wholesaling? Is it flipping? Is it just rental properties? Is it house hacking, or what?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's what can you stomach, right? The easiest barrier of entry is going to be wholesaling because it's not going to cost you any money, right? So again, you can go get a property under contract, and then what wholesaling is, you know, you're out there hunting for distressed properties. And guys like myself will buy from wholesalers. So there's a value there for, like, I don't have time to go knock on doors or put out flyers to find these houses. You know, we kind of rely on some of these wholesalers out there who are younger, more aggressive. And
so as a real estate agent, you like look for wholesalers almost a little bit.
I use wholesalers. I use the MLS. Like, you've just got to use everything possible, right? Like, and you know, the more the the real estate community knows you. Like, dude, out of the blue, I'll get a call and say, hey, I got a house here. I know you buy. You want to see it? And it's like, yeah, it's go time. Cool. You know, but I mean, for wholesaling, right? You get it under contract, and then you buy that contract from the wholesaler. Now it could be as low as like $1,000 or $2,000. It could be as high as shit. I had a guy one time trying to get a $90,000 wholesale fee out of me, and you know that's not gonna fly, right? But hey, it's a great shot. Like,
yeah,
and
for you, somebody
bought it.
Yeah.
And again, you got to determine what makes you a good investor or a good wholesaler. Is the deal, right? Like the hustle. How good of a deal did you get on it, right? And you're making the money on the buy, because you can never, if you overpay for the purchase when you buy this house, you're constantly behind the 8 ball, right?
Yeah. I don't want to change subjects here, but you said like
Going to anyway.
always, you know, so you say like listening to Gary Vee and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So Gary Vee's been like a kind of like a almost like a tool, not like super motivational for you in your sense, but like, do you think he's like a good motivational for others and stuff like that?
You know what? And I just had this conversation when I was getting out of the video game stores. I took on a ton of debt. I kind of went into a depression. I just lost my business, right? Like shit just wasn't going right. I didn't know what was going to happen next. I'm like 35. Like, you know, my girlfriend wants to get married and have kids, and I'm just like, well, now I'm broke, right? Mm-hmm. What the hell do I do now? Like shit's going sideways. Like, I just don't know where to turn. So I start jumping on the podcast. Gary Vee was one of them, Grant Cardone. And dude, if you listen to them, they're fucking intense. Like, they're in your ear. Like, you know, they can't help but like get the juices flowing. But also there's a time and place for that. Like, what's funny is like, I actually bumped into Grant Cardone. My wife was a pageant girl, and his daughters were competing in the pageant like 2 summers ago, right?
Okay.
And we're in the hills of West Virginia at this random hotel for this pageant, and Grant Cardone walks by me, and I'm like, I'm in the middle of a conversation. I'm like, no fucking way, right? Like, what is he doing here? And what's funny, and so my point is that I actually unfollowed him on social media because I was so sick of hearing the same thing over. Like, I already used him and Gary Vee to like get that motivation to do what I needed to do. Now I needed to kind of like sharpen my craft. Mm-hmm. And those weren't the guys that I needed to listen to anymore. So I started listening to more like business and entrepreneurial and kind of like sharpening my skills.
Yeah.
So
Which makes sense. It does. It makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, they are incredible branding people, right? Like,
yes.
They're just phenomenal at what they do. But I used them for that year or two to get my shit in order, right? Mm-hmm. And figure out what I wanted to do next. Now I didn't need somebody to kick my ass to get me out of bed anymore. I needed somebody to tell me how to
make it better.
100%. Yeah.
Work on making your product.
Because if
perfect.
you listen to those guys, it's sort of like the same thing.
It's a motivational thing.
Yeah. And they make their money off of, you know, obviously Gary Vee's got his branding and his advertisement company, so he does a ton of great things. So, and Grant Cardone's got his real estate stuff, right? Yeah. So, you know, I've always just taken bits and pieces from what I've learned. I've learned from local investors. I've learned from friends. I've learned for other entrepreneurs, not even in real estate, but just how do you conduct business, right?
Yeah,
and make it my own.
It's actually like that like what you just said there is actually crazy. I never even thought about it like that. Like that they're kind of just like motivational, like get up, like to make you do it, and then like
they don't
once
give
you
like specifics on what to do in certain situations.
But then once you have it, like once you have that drive and that like whatever they're preaching, you are doing it. You know, like so that's crazy.
So like I said, I kind of went through a depression when I just didn't know what to do. Right, like I was lost. I just want to work. I want to hustle. Like, and I just couldn't figure out what was next. Right. And I'll never forget Grant Cardone, like, and this plays to my head almost, probably not every day, but when I'm not feeling it, he had this thing, he was like, don't be a bitch, right? And like, I literally think about when there's something that I don't want to do, and I'm like, just dude, don't be a bitch, right? Like, go do it.
He's gonna carry the logs.
Fucking David Goggins now. So the whole reason I even brought up Gary Vee is because I want to ask you something about him. So one very famous clip of him, it still cycles around, is that he says if you're making under a certain amount of money and you can't figure it out, he said quit your job.
Yeah.
He says
sell shit on eBay, right?
So yeah, he's like 52 weeks of the year, 365 days. Go out and go garage sailing. Do you believe that's actually an actual tactic that somebody, if they really,
They fucking did it, basically.
I know that, but
I'm the broker Gary Vee, like the mini Gary Vee of Buffalo. Because no lie, I would literally hit garage sales and flea markets on the weekends, buy shit and sell it. Right. And that, dude, I worked my way through college that way.
And you did it before it was really a thing.
Yeah.
because now it's like so overpopulated.
100%. Like
all of it is.
I mean, from sneakers to clothes to you name it. But you got to find your niche.
Yeah.
Like, what do you like? Like, if you don't enjoy what you're selling,
Then what the fuck are you doing it for? Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I will say that I enjoyed the video game stores because video games are fun, right?
Yeah.
But also, like, I just got bored of them because, like, it wasn't the thing that I truly loved. I love building businesses, right?
Mm-hmm.
And right now, like, I'm going 6 years into real estate. I've never made more money. I've never had more fun. And I can see myself doing it for the rest of my life. And the wealthiest people in the world, they all own real estate.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah.
And it's an incredible
100%.
tool, right? Like,
100%. Yeah. No, it's a solid backing. Like,
So
fuck.
selfishly, I want to go into this real quick. You said you were house hacking with a Viper in the garage, and you were
Selfishly. I love it.
Selfishly. No, here's the thing. I'm house hacking.
Yeah.
Right? I'm house hacking. I have one duplex. I'm closing on another duplex in like 30, 50, 40, 50 days, whatever.
what the
And
fuck do you use for a real estate agent? You don't have to call them out, but now I'm
yeah,
disappointed.
no, the first one I didn't use a real estate agent. The first one I didn't. The seller refused to use
Fair.
a real estate agent. So
and that's not always bad, right?
right. But
I mean,
the
it worked out pretty well so far.
yeah, it worked
Yeah.
out. Yeah. So, but the second one, yeah, it was just kind of random. It was through the bank. Like the bank recommended someone. So, but like, I'm the same way. I got a Maserati. I'm a car guy too. So, but like, what was like your plan of action at that time? Like, I want you to speak to me like I'm your younger self.
So here's what I'll tell you. Like, any younger clients that come to me and they're like, hey, I want to buy my first house.
Yep.
And they're in their 20s. And they automatically think that they need to buy like a single family home.
Yeah.
Once I start breaking down the numbers of like buying a duplex, like what the fuck do you need a single family home right now for? Right? Like buy a duplex, 3 bedrooms, live with your buddies, rent out the rooms. Like you start breaking down the numbers. When you can live in one side, rent out the other, and just pay, even if you had to pay $500 a month for a 3-bedroom duplex, like go to North Buffalo right now. Dude, you're paying $1,500-$1,600 a month to rent from somebody else. You're paying their mortgage.
Yeah.
Right now, that very first duplex I bought 10 years ago, right? I bought it for $170,000. And at the time, the rents were like $750 a month. I just kind of went through and remodeled. Now it's in Amherst. It's a pretty nice area. Dude, I'm getting $2,000 a month for each side. 3-bedroom duplex. But, I mean, they're renovated to the nines. Like, quartz countertops, stainless steel appliances, soft closed doors and drawers, brand new appliances, brand new AC, like they're sexy, right?
Yeah.
Dude, my mortgage and taxes is $1,300 a month.
Wow.
Ow.
Now, that's 10 years in the making,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So the way the numbers work out, right? So I bought it for $170,000 10 years ago. Somebody else has been paying my mortgage for the last 10 years. Now I owe $100,000 on the house. You want to know what that thing is worth right now? 400, 450.
Yeah, I was gonna say 400.
But guess what? I'm never gonna sell it. In maybe a few years, I'll pull out $300,000 of the equity, the cash, and go buy another one.
So that was my next question. Like, when do you plan on like refinancing or pulling out a HELOC or something like that?
So I just did it with 5 single-family homes that I own in Lockport. So a few years ago, I was buying up, and I never thought I'd be investing in Lockport, but the cash flow up there is incredible, right? So I'm buying these single-family homes up there. They're estates. The first one I ever bought, it was on the market for $50,000. They couldn't sell it. It was sitting. Dude, I bought it for $18,000. I'm getting $1,500 a month for it.
Holy shit.
Now, you can't get these returns. Like, I'm talking about shit pre-COVID, 5-6 years ago.
All
The
this
market
bullshit.
went gangbusters.
Yeah.
So let's just say the most expensive house that I bought, the first 5 single-family homes I bought in Lockport, the most expensive one was 35 grand. They were all between 18 and 35 grand. I dumped 20,000 into them. So I've got $50,000 into these houses. I just recently, last year, took a home equity line of credit on all of them. I did a blanket mortgage. And because interest rates are high, I just went with a line of credit. So when they come back down, they each appraised for between 120 and 145. So
From the 15?
from the 15 to 35. Now so if I had $50,000 with renovations into them, so they average $50,000 each. I'm into them for $250.
Oh.
They appraised for $750 grand. The bank gave me a check for 75% of $750,000. Right. So they gave me $500 grand to play with. So I bought 3 more houses and a Lamborghini.
So that's the next thing I want to get into.
Fucking
like,
Lambo.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
We got to get into the Lambo. You drove the Lambo here. We didn't fucking get it on camera or anything.
Thanks for the
because
parking spot.
Yeah.
Fuck.
we fucked you over on a parking
The worst
spot.
podcast in the world.
Yeah, but like, what was that decision making there? Like, what? Fuck.
Like
I
why
mean,
a Lambo? Like why a Lambo?
So,
Why not?
I
like,
love
anything
cars,
else?
right? Like my first sports car when I was 25, I bought an 82 Corvette, like 20,000 miles on it, all original T-tops. It wasn't fast, but it was fucking cool, right? Mm-hmm. And then I bought a 2001 Viper. Then I bought a 2005 Viper. And I'm buying these cars super low miles, drive them for 2 or 3 years, and I'm selling them for what I paid for them.
Yep.
So I'm literally driving a Viper for 2 years. And you can't drive it all year in Buffalo, right? Like, it's not my main car. So, like, whether it has 6,000 miles on it or 12,000 miles on it, the price really doesn't move much, or 11,000 versus 18,000, right? Mm-hmm. So you put 3,000 or 4,000 miles on it, you take care of it, you drive it around, sell it for what you paid for it. So instead of house hacking, I'm car hacking. I'm flipping cars, right? Like, I drive them for a couple of years, play with them, just pay for the gas and insurance. And so I just always stepped up. So I went from the old school Corvette to the 01 Viper. I had an 06 Viper that was one of 100. And then I bought a 2015 Z06 Corvette with a Z07 package. Incredible car. Dude, I drove that for 4 years, put 20,000 miles on it, and sold it for $500 less than I paid for it. And then 2 years ago,
traded in, or
yeah, I traded that in towards, because the car prices went crazy during COVID.
Right.
So then I bought a 2018 R8 V10 Plus, just sick, right? I mean, every option. I mean, this car new was 215 grand.
I saw that on
matte
Instagram.
white paint.
R8 was
just
nasty.
yeah, Caprice to exhaust. It just screamed, and incredible car. And kind of like the next level from there is like, where do you go? So I was looking at Ferraris, 488s. I was looking at 720S McLarens, and I was looking at the Lamborghini Huracan, and just the sharper lines of the Huracan. I saw this one came up to auction, bring a trailer, and dude, blue's my favorite color. All my vehicles are usually white, blacked out.
Yeah.
I saw this thing, and it just like spoke to me. I'm like, dude, at this point, I'm bidding on it. Just like eBay, man, I got wrapped up, and it was just like I had my number, and I was doing everything I could. I was not losing this car.
So you got an auction license for like car things?
So no, I just needed to open up an account. It was an online account, right? Like it's actually, I don't know if you guys want to plug this, but bringatrailer.com. I mean, it's like the eBay of cars. Like, you just go on there, and people are selling cars all over the country. Yeah, it didn't meet the reserve, and then we kind of negotiated offline and came to make a deal.
No, that's cool. Yeah, I have a buddy that like his grandpa has like an auction license, so he
for sure.
He'll go to the auctions and like buy cars and stuff.
Yeah, I've got a close friend that they'll go down to like Lauderdale and go to some of the auctions and buy cars, and he sells them here locally.
Wow,
that's crazy. So you didn't even test drive it before you bought it?
No. And I've done that a lot, and it's kind of stupid, but you could do like pre-purchase inspections. You can pay somebody to go down there. You can have them take it to a local dealership, and they'll do their inspection. So
It's like your Lambo doesn't have cup holders, right?
it has one,
It has one.
and it was a very expensive option. I don't remember what it was, but it's like a $10,000 cup holder that you push a fucking button on the dashboard.
Oh, and it pops out.
And it pops out. Yeah.
Are you fucking serious? Oh no. So like, I'm not a car guy by any means. Like, I am not. Like, I have like.
You love Lambos, though.
I love Lambos. I fucking love them.
Yeah.
But that's like always like Bam Margera is my inspiration. He had the fucking
Gallardo.
He had the purple like back in like 07, whatever it was. And I was like, that fucking car is so slick. But like, I've always had like the distinction between like Ferraris and Lambos. Like, what the fuck? Like, and like I said, I'm not a car guy, so I don't get into like the specs of any of it, like how loud they are, how fast they are, how this, that,
Just
this,
all
that.
a little different, right?
But the
Like,
Lambo's so much slicker. It
you
really
know what?
is.
It just depends. Some guys are like hardcore, like Ferrari guys,
Yeah.
and then there's the hardcore Porsche guys, which performance. There's all sorts of different things.
Yeah.
Dude, I just want them to look pretty, sound loud, and fucking drive them. You know?
Boom.
And you know what? The best part is that like I've gained so much more business from owning these sports cars.
Really.
I'm part of some car groups. We go on rides. I'm meeting fucking more people that like are millionaires that have these cars, right? So now we're going on car drives or we're going out for drinks and stuff like that. Guess what they're selling? Their $1 million house. Their $2 million house, right? Dude, I got a there's like a lot of like photographers and stuff on Instagram that like will go to the car shows and like follow your cars, right? So I get messages all the time from detailers and photographers. They want to take pictures of the cars, they want to detail the cars, and then they want to pump their shit on social media, which I get it, right?
Yeah.
No problem. So a couple weeks ago, I get a message from a kid. He's like, I love your Lamborghini. Like, I follow you on Instagram. My parents are going to sell their house. I'm like, sweet. He's like, can I have them call you? Absolutely. So I have no idea what to expect, right? Get a phone call the next day. Dude, it's a $3 million house down in Orchard Park.
Holy shit.
That's like a $70,000, $80,000 commission,
Yeah.
right? Because the kid liked my car.
Yeah.
And like, I made a reel a couple weeks ago. I'm like, kind of making fun of it. Like, basically saying like, yeah, don't go out and buy like a fucking $300,000 Lamborghini, but understand what that does and the circles that you put yourself into when you own something like, dude, this car's going to pay for itself. I did an extra $4 or $5 million this year in sales from people I've met from owning this car.
Right.
Like,
That's
it's just
crazy.
you're just a different, you're in a network of people, right?
No,
like,
and
that's
that's-
who you surround yourself with.
That's an important point I want to bring up too. What kind of watch you got on right now?
Rolex Daytona.
Okay, so I
for it.
I got a Rolex, I got the Maserati. I'm trying to like experience that same exact thing, right?
Yeah.
Putting myself in those circles. But like, do you think it's really worth it for people out there watching? Like, if they have that like 5-10 grand to spend on a just cheap Rolex, right? Like, just to have it and like
Be part of the
up
club.
themselves.
Yeah, listen,
like
there's, I could argue it both ways, right?
yeah.
What I will tell you is that I didn't seek out necessarily to hang out with other business owners, but it kind of happened because like in my 20s, right, I own my own business. The people that were speaking the same lingo as me and the people that I wanted to be like, well, they were entrepreneurs and they owned car dealerships and insurance companies and restaurants. You know what I mean? Like, they all worked for themselves. Like, when I have a problem, nobody else understands the HR problem or the cash flow problem or, hey, I'm struggling with this and that. So where do I go? I go to somebody else that owns a business, right? And then you just tend to hang out with those people and network with those people, right? So my ex-girlfriend, straight out of college, right? She was a financial advisor, which is great. Like, it's fucking hard work, right? Like, there's a ton of hustle, and you're out there grinding and trying to get clients. But, dude, she would roll up to the house in a fucking Chevy Cobalt. am I going to give you my $1 million, $2 million portfolio to somebody that's driving a Chevy Cobalt, right? But also, like, guess what? Like when I roll up to a flip house, a contractor site, dude, I'm not bringing the Lamborghini. I'm bringing my fucking pickup truck.
Yeah.
Right? Because how am I supposed to identify with the guys working on the job site that are swinging the hammer for me or painting the walls when I roll up in a Lamborghini? Guess what? My shit just got more expensive. Like, my bill's going to fucking go up. Right? So, like, I roll up there with the pickup truck.
Yeah, and it's funny how it works, but like life is more of the like, and I don't mean this in a bad way by any means, but like life is more of like the charade.
Yeah.
You know, like especially in all
and
this.
you know, like Instagram's everybody's fucking highlight reel,
Fuck
right?
yeah.
Like nobody's putting their losses on there.
No. Yeah, oh my god, no.
And that's that's how life is, right? Like, and the first appointment that I ever took my Lamborghini on, it was a referral, right? It was a friend of a friend. And one of two things is going to happen. I'm going to pull up and they're going to be impressed and say, this dude knows what he's doing, right? He is good at his job. Or they're going to say, this dude charges way too much for what he does. Right. He's not the person for me. You want the best or not, right? Like, I'd rather flaunt it a little bit more. And that's not everybody's cup of tea. Dude, I know one of the wealthiest guys I know, worth a couple $100 million, up until like 2-3 years ago, was driving a fucking dinged up Kia.
Yeah.
Like, you would not know he had money.
I was just going to say
dude
that.
sold his company worth a couple $100 million, and I'm like, when he tells me this house that he was selling or looking at buying in Florida, I'm like, no way. Like, dude, it was a $10 million house, and I'm like, no, you can't. Like, why are you showing me this?
Yeah.
Dude, I had no idea.
He's out here.
No idea.
Because like that's like a common theme too. Like there's like a lot of I mean, I understand both sides of it. But like there's like NFL players who just pull up in like a beater 07.
There's
like,
plenty of those guys.
They just.
I know a business guy that sold the company for a couple $1 billion, and he's driving like an 06.
Not even driving, just showing up wearing
Jeep
dirty
Grand
ass
Cherokee,
clothes.
and he's wearing like.
So here's the thing, and it
vets.
goes back to what like you guys are talking. Like, is it worth buying a Rolex or buying a sports car?
Right.
Here's the thing: anything that I buy, I'm not buying a brand new Lamborghini, right? Because I know I'm going to get my ass handed to me. It's going to lose value. But if I buy the one 2 years old with a couple thousand miles on it, like I know the market. Like, I'm not going to. If I just drive it a couple years, I'm not going to lose anything. Now, the aftermarket Rolexes, right? The secondary market, all Rolexes are worth more than you can get them retail. I bought this retail brand new. It's worth $3,000 or $4,000 more than I paid for it. So I know at any point I could take this off and go sell it, and I'm fine.
Right. Rolexes, I feel like Rolexes are probably the best investment.
That is a good investment.
But I would tell you that, like, here's the thing: whether it's clothes or some whatever, that if you're just buying them and you really can't afford them just to flex, and there's no value to them,
That's stupid.
That's dumb, right?
Yeah.
But like, dude, I'll tell you, there's quite often I'll be wearing a $20,000 Rolex on my wrist, and I got a pair of fucking Sperry's on that are like $20 from like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, dude, this is like a $10 T-shirt from Old Navy.
Yeah.
100%.
100%. Yeah. Guaranteed.
So
yeah.
I like going back to Gary Vee now, right? Like he always shits on like car people a lot, and unless you really love the cars. So like, what would you say to that? To like somebody that's like, oh, you're stupid for buying a Lamborghini, right?
Again, it's to each his own. I can prove that I'm making more money off of it, right? Like that it's paying for itself, right? But also with the rental properties having 27, 28 doors right now, guess who's paying for my Lamborghini? Not me.
Yeah.
Right? Like the cash flow from my passive income is now paying for my luxury items.
Yeah.
Love it.
No, yeah. I mean, it's a genuine business model. It makes sense, you know? I mean, I feel like...
What do people like to buy? Some people like to buy cars. Some people like to buy watches. Some people like to buy houses. Some people like to buy purses.
Clothes.
Clothes,
some
all
people
that.
like to spend money on clothes. Yeah. Like, I like cars, and guess what? I don't lose money on buying them.
Sorry.
Right?
I'll tell you. Like,
and then the other part is like my daily driver. Like, you know, I just bought one of the new Escalades. Guess what? It's a tax write-off on my business. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm justifying why I can buy all these things, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just not buying luxury items that are depreciating in value. There's some purpose behind it. right?
Yeah.
Dude, once I got 100 million in the bank, I'll probably buy a lot of shit that I don't need.
Yeah,
And I don't care how much it loses
when
money.
you
I
got
don't
fuck
have
you
that
money
right
yeah,
now.
yeah, exactly. When you have fuck you money like
Right.
that, you can do fuck you things,
Yeah.
you know? Like
Dude, every time I think I'm doing well, I go down to Florida and I'm like, Jesus
it's-
Christ, I'm poor.
it's fucking dirty, isn't it? You know?
Especially Miami.
Yeah,
Miami,
Miami, Naples. I got friends down in Naples. I go down there all the time, and I'm just like, it checks me, right? Like I go down there, I'm feeling good, and I'm like,
God damn it.
I gotta go
It's
work
motivational,
harder.
though.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. That's his
Absolutely.
thing. That's his
Yeah.
thing. He's
Every
always like,
time I go down to Florida.
we go down to Florida. He's like, oh, every time I get back, I just fucking need to work harder because
But dude, that's what I love about hanging out with people that are older, right? That have
Older.
more experience, that are doing better, right?
Yeah.
Dude, I want to get on their level. Like, it's fun to like get on their level
that
and
shit.
compete with them.
Yeah.
Dude, if you would have told me 5 years ago when I was my last business was $700,000 in debt in 5 years, I would have that all paid off and I would own a Lamborghini. Get out of
fuck
here,
you.
dude.
What are you talking about?
Like,
Yeah.
dude, I was on depression medication,
Yeah.
right? Like, I didn't know what left from right was. Like, I was just trying to figure out life, you know?
Mm-hmm. Because it's a dangerous cycle too, especially when you get into shit like that. It really is. Like even no matter how much debt, that is it's a crazy thing that a lot of people deal with.
Yeah,
Like,
I know. I know someone that fucking killed themselves because their business went under and fucking.
Yeah.
Dude, I'll never forget going to the doctor. Like, I wasn't feeling right. So they sat me down and kind of filled out this survey of like, for depression, right?
Yeah.
And the doctor comes in, she's like, oh, you scored really high on it. I'm like, really? Like thinking that I did well, that I wasn't depressed. She's like, no, that's not a good thing, right?
Nope.
So, and listen, I'm never going to say that I thought about killing myself, but I was just like, I was fucking depressed. Like I just didn't know what to do, right? Yeah. And then just a little bit of motivation, a couple wins here and there, right? Like, and just literally like grinding, like, whatever it takes, right? Dude, I would be at these rental properties painting and laying tile and landscaping 9, 10, 11, laying flooring 11 o'clock at night every weekend. I did that for 3-4 years and I just buckled down. I didn't buy shit, right? Like I wasn't buying new clothes, I wasn't buying new shoes, I wasn't buying new cars, right? Like I just grind, and then all of a sudden you fucking wake up one day and you got 28 units and I'm selling $10 million in real estate with my real estate license, flipping 2 or 3 houses a year, and I made it again, right?
Yeah.
So now when you go through that cycle, dude, I built a business, I came from nothing, felt great, I lost it all, and now that I built another business up over the last 5 years, dude, I feel invincible, right?
Right,
like
yeah.
I don't.
It's understandable. Yeah.
Like I've been through the shit. So now if I have to go through it again, I know I'm going to come out on the other side.
100%.
You earned it too. You know what I'm saying? Like you earned that invincibility. Like,
But that's that's part of being an
bootstrapping.
entrepreneur. Whether you're
Yeah.
real estate, video games, sneakers, like whatever you're flipping, selling, cars that like, dude, if I don't get a paycheck unless I go to work, right?
Yeah.
Like there's no 9 to 5. There's no guaranteed paycheck at the end of the day. Which should be motivating enough in itself,
it's
right?
on you.
And I love that because I'll tell you, if this ever goes in the shitter, and I said it before, I will mow lawns, I will paint houses, I will do whatever it takes to just continue to work for myself. Because there's been days like when I'm like, screw this, like I should just go work for the man, clock out at 5 o'clock, and not have to worry about anything else from there, right? Because when you work for yourself, dude, like. Toilets overflowing at 2
Everything's on
o'clock in
you.
the morning.
Yeah.
Like I remember last Christmas, like I literally have my phone in my hand. I'm sitting down with my Christmas dinner, and my tenant is sending me the sump pump that is pissing all over the furnace, and I'm like,
Happened to me,
dude. I can't. Have it. And it's always like the toilet backs up on the weekend. It's never
worst
during the
time.
week.
Yeah.
Never. No. But what I would tell you, like, and any young person that wants to get into real estate,
Just what I
is,
was going to ask, by the
dude,
way. I was just going to say this. Yeah.
buy
Go
a
ahead.
duplex, live in one side, rent out the other. And then in a year or two, buy another one. Go house hack, go live in it, fix it up, rent out the 2 other ones. Dude, you can get a loan right now for like, I think 5% down and up to a 4-unit. So you can buy a 4-unit house as your first house, put 5% down as long as you live in one of them, you rent out the other 3.
if you're not using an FHA too.
Yeah, and
That's-
honestly, it's a conventional loan.
Yeah, conventional is 5%.
Yeah.
And it's like why not do that? Especially if you don't have kids and like
So
you don't have-
5% on it's $5,000 for every $100,000. And the money that you're going to make from that, somebody else is going to pay your mortgage in 5 years. When you bought that 4-unit that was $250,000 or $300,000, now it's worth $400. Like the great thing about real estate is over time,
it's always going to go
always
up.
going to appreciate.
Yeah.
And then we're not even talking about the tax write-offs that you get. The government lets you depreciate this shit and write stuff off. Like, dude, I'm not. Again, I have a CPA that's hired to like take care of all this stuff, but it's wild, right? Like, it is incredible.
No,
Another thing I wanted to bring up, the market right now is insane because I just went through the buying process and like like interest rates are 6.5, 7, like they're up there, but like duplexes are still going for like 20, 30, 40 over asking. Like it's insane.
I mean, listen, real estate over the last few years has gotten real trendy, right?
Yeah.
Like to buy real estate, to own real estate. There's a lot of fucking gurus on there on Instagram and social media telling you what to do. And listen, I was drinking the Kool-Aid. I am drinking the Kool-Aid. Like it's a tool that's incredible that I wish I started when I was 35. I'm 41 now. And technically I owned my first duplex in my 20s, but dude, had I known what I know today, I would have been buying back then.
Right.
Like, I wish I could go back and like start it all over again earlier because I would be buying more real estate. But at the end of the day, if you're an investor, right, if the property's making money, it's going to appreciate. Like, who gives a shit what the interest rate is, right? Like,
you can always refinance it. you change it.
Refinance, you raise your rents. Like, you've got $0 of $0 is zero, right? Like, if you don't own anything, you're not going to make any money. So, like, if the interest rates are a little higher, big deal. Like, again, the tax benefits and everything that goes along with it, you just got to, and I get stuck in it too sometimes, right? Like, I've been blessed with, like, interest rates of 3% and 4%, and now they're like 7.5%, and I'm like, But, like, all right, well, if you're not buying anything, you're not going to make any money.
I know,
right?
It's crazy. My first house is 2.5.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Like,
don't ever sell it.
My second, I'm scared to refinance it, but my second one is gonna be like 6.5. So like it's ridiculous. But dude, I mean, it's still
and
gonna
here's
make
what I'll
money,
share with you afterwards is I've got an incredible Excel spreadsheet, and I don't know if you have one, but if you're going to be an investor, you should have one that breaks down the deals, because at the end of the day, the numbers don't lie. No matter how good the house looks, no matter what you think of it, if it doesn't fit in these numbers, you calculate the rents and the expenses, and you start getting into cap rates and return on investment. You got to break down the numbers. And before I even go look at the house, I see it online. I gather all the information from rents, taxes, expenses, the financing on it, and break it down. And if it doesn't meet a certain criteria, it's out, no matter how sexy it looks or how good you think it is. Dude, it all comes down to the numbers. And it takes all the guesswork out of it.
Yeah, no, fucking hell.
And then you just got to decide,
Scary.
okay, well, do I want to make, if it's in a shittier area, I want it to cash flow better because it's not going to appreciate as much.
Right.
But if you're in like an Amherst or a North Buffalo, well, guess what? I'm not going to cash flow as much, right? But what's going to happen to it? Over the next 10 years, it's going to double in price, right? So there's different strategies, right? So I've got some places in Niagara Falls and Lockport that, well, they cash flow great, but they're in tougher neighborhoods. And then I've got stuff in nicer neighborhoods that doesn't cash flow as much, but they're going to appreciate more over time and be more valuable in the long run.
Yeah.
Long run, yeah.
And then as you start getting into it, you start padding your portfolio and mixing it up. And then you throw an office building in there. Oh, now I got a little commercial. Oh, and then I've got a short-term rental in Ellicottville, right? Like, there's all these different strategies.
Yeah. What do you think about rental properties compared to like Airbnbs?
So I did very well on, I had an Airbnb down in Ellicottville that I did very well on. And
that's what made me think of it.
Yeah,
you said Ellicottville.
So I had a property manager, and it was a grind. Like, people coming in and out, like, every weekend. They just, they tend to want to party a little harder. My second weekend ever renting my Ellicottville house. So it's a $950,000 house in the mountains, log cabin, incredible hot tub. New Year's Day, I'm sitting on social media flipping through. And dude, all of a sudden I see like a bunch of chicks and dudes in a hot tub. Lights are flashing. They're popping bottles.
Hell yeah.
And then I flip to the next, right. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then I realize it's my fucking house. And there's literally chicks dancing on the countertops. Like I got these live edge mahogany countertops. And I'm just like, what's going on? And I just like, dude, it's just, you just don't want to see it. Because by time, the cleaning ladies, the cleaning people come in, they clean it all up. They put everything back to where it is. Once in a while shit gets broken. But you usually don't see the parties, right? Right. Listen, you got to have a stomach for it. There's turnover every week, and every little problem they can complain about, like, it's a grind. And if you're on Airbnb and Vrbo and stuff like that, they take their cut too. And, you know, you've got to find reliable cleaners and repairmen. And, you know, again, I didn't like the in and out every day. I like somebody, yeah. I like to fix up the place. I like them to be there for a couple years. And know that guaranteed income is coming in. But it's risk reward. Yeah. You can make a lot more money with the short-term rentals, right? But now the market's kind of becoming oversaturated. That's been the hot thing. So it depends on who you ask, right? Like,
that's a new thing too. It's like, it's almost like wholesaling in a way, but like Airbnb. Like people are, like kids that don't own the Airbnb are calling the Airbnb owners and like saying like, can I list this for a percentage and like do whatever with it? Yeah.
Well, and they're flat out renting, right? Another like for a year, and then they'll go in Airbnb, right? That's another hack, right? I mean, I think I just heard like New York City's just like done with Airbnb.
Really?
Yeah, I think that they just recently passed it.
Wow. The fuck. That makes sense, I guess. The whole thing of having like tenants and stuff like that, and Airbnb brings a whole nother thing into it. But my mother, she's always preached to me from the very beginning of my life. Like she works for Section 8.
Yeah.
So she's always dealt with like the tenants, stuff like that. And like while it is a good thing, like these people, like you're still liable for a lot of these like lives in general and what they do, the choices they make and stuff like that. And I think Airbnb is a crazy aspect to like taking that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck I'm saying.
You know what? I follow a guy on Instagram. His name, I think his name is actually Tom Cruise, right?
Of course it is. Love that.
So he's out of Florida, but he's got something like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 Section 8 houses. That's all he does. Mm-hmm. He buys these places for $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. He knows what Section 8 looks for. It's guaranteed income from the government. He's getting $1,300, $1,400, $1,500 a month all over the country for these. And when you times that by several thousand, like, dude, this dude's got fucking yachts and multiple cars. He's got a $14 million house in Miami. Like, he's just printing money, and you know he's one of those gurus, and he's throwing it out there on social media, and a lot of people want to shit on him, but like, for what?
Sorry,
he's providing nice housing for somebody that needs it because there's a shortage of Section 8 housing. The government's guaranteeing the payments, like.
Yeah. I got a cousin out in Boston that does Section 8 housing, and he's like, it's just guaranteed money. But like, when he has to kick people out, he shows up with like rolled up ones in a shoebox with a pack of cigarettes.
But it's also like, listen, it's tough to get Section 8, and once you have it, if you fuck it up, you don't get it again. Mm-hmm. Right. So, and that's what a lot of these people don't. They do understand. Like, so they. You know, they may not be the cleanest sometimes or take care of it because it's not their property. Like that's a problem. But, you know, a lot of them do take care of it because they don't want to lose their assistants. Like they're guaranteed a place to live. Like don't fuck that up. Like why bite the hand that's feeding you? It just doesn't make sense. Yep. You know, and you know, a lot of people want to shit on landlords for being greedy, but
I don't. Yeah, I hate
we've
that.
We've got to constantly.
But the landlords have a lot on the line.
Absolutely, I hate that stigma.
Of the liability.
I hate that.
I've got to fix the furnace, and I've got to fix the plumbing, and I've got to fix the windows and the roof. and I've got to take a loan out on it, and it affects my credit.
I
and
got to make
things
money
that I
too.
buy.
Like at the end of the day,
It's not even being greedy. It's just,
not.
It's just.
But there's that massive stigma, especially nowadays, which is just fucking insane that these people on social media can just go crazy about landlords and stuff, like how landlords are selfish and shit like that. It's fucking crazy.
So, and this is always my question, is like when you kick back on that, well, who do you want to own the property? If you
Yeah.
can't own it, and you don't want private, you want the fucking government owning it?
Yeah, like I
What do you think it's going to look like that? Go look at
way
some of
worse,
the
yeah.
projects around here that the government owns,
Like,
right?
I've never understood the bitching of landlords. That is beyond crazy to me. I can't believe that. I really can't.
All right. I think we're good.
But
right?
I mean, circling back around, dude, like real estate's an incredible tool, and if you're an investor, if you could find a way to buy one duplex a year, and if you're in your 20s, like when you can get into a 2, 3, 4 unit for 5% down, live in one side, one of the units, rent out the others, dude, that is the strongest, best investment I think that you can make in your 20s.
100% agree.
Fucking beautiful,
100%
beautiful
agree.
advice
You guys
You're
heard
doing
it
it
here
right.
first.
for the boys.
Probably not first, but
Fucking second.
you heard it here.
Yeah.
We're gonna link your Instagram in the
100%.
description below.
Check out the
So,
Lambo.
If you guys need a real estate agent, hit him up.
Appreciate it.
He's a man.
I've
Thank
got
you for
all
coming
the tools
on.
to do it, and like I said, I'll hook you up with that cash flow. It's a cash flow statement. It's going to break down the deal every single time. The numbers don't lie.
Awesome.
I'm gonna text you my email so
Yeah.
you can send it to
Fucking
me.
beautiful. Send
That's
that to me too, because I'm gonna start doing some of this stuff now. I'm motivated. He's like my Gary Vee.
All right. Thank you for coming on.
All right, brother. Appreciate it, guys.
Appreciate it. It was
you,
great.
man.
Like, comment, subscribe. Otherwise.